بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. Ramadan is the month of victory and honor. Ramadan is the month of victory and honor. The month of Ramadan was made obligatory when? In the second year of the Hijrah, with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Sahaba ridwanullahi ta'ala alayhim ajma'een migrating to Medina. And it was made obligatory 1 month before, in the month of Sha'ban. So there was no tradition amongst the Arabs of the time to fast for extended periods of time. Yes, there was fasting here or there, days of Ashura and so on, but nothing extensive. So now Ramadan has been made obligatory in the month of Sha'ban. And now for a whole month they are to fast. It has been an obligation. And in that month, what happened? Battle of Badr, 17th of Ramadan, a day that Allah calls in the Quran, Yawmul Furqan, the day of distinguishing between haqq and batil, truth and falsehood. And the Muslims had a decisive victory over the ambush of the Quraysh, 17th of Ramadan. The freeing, the liberation of Makkah, Fath Makkah, after a 23-year struggle, after a 20-plus year struggle of the Muslims, and Makkah came back into the control and was freed from idol worship of the Quraysh and of the pagan Arabs. This took place in the month of Ramadan, 23rd of Ramadan. Two of the greatest victories for the Muslims in history. After the passing away of Rasulullah, the Sassanid Empire, the Sassanid dynasty, the Iranian dynasty, Persian Empire, 4,000-year rule. And this was the second largest dynasty behind the Romans, the Byzantines. And this dynasty was obliterated by the great leader Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas radiyallahu ta'ala anhu in this battle of the Sassanid Empire against the Muslims. This took place in Ramadan. Egypt at that time had been following the rule of pharaohs and the lineage and the hierarchy of the pharaohs. It was under the great Amr ibn As radiyallahu ta'ala anhu that the battle of Alexandria took place. And this took place and the victory was decisive, under which now the Muslims came into Egypt in the month of Ramadan. Andalus, the battle of Andalus, Spain, 800-year rule of Muslims, mashallah. And this was under the great Tariq bin Ziyad, the Berber, and he was sent out. And Tariq bin Ziyad battled the king at that time, King Roderick. And this battle for the 800-year rule of Muslims under Spain took place 25th of Ramadan. The time and the major issue of our time, I would say, is the issue of Palestine and what is going on in Gaza. But did you know that one of the very first incursions of the Muslims whereby they took back control was under a great leader? You might know him, Salahudin Al-Ayyubi, rahimahullah. Under his great leadership, the Battle of Hittin took place. And it was on the 27th night of Ramadan that Salahudin would go for his camp. And many people and army leaders may prepare in different ways, but Salahudin would go to ensure that in every camp, everyone was reading Qiyamul Layl, Tahajjud Salah. And when he saw that everyone was up praying Salah at night, he goes, mashallah, Allah will give us victory. Allah will give us victory because this is the preparation that we need. 27th of Ramadan, the Battle of Hittin, and Masjid Al-Aqsa came back under the control, under the Muslims, under Salahudin Al-Ayyubi. What about Indian subcontinent? MashaAllah, we've got a congregation of brothers from the Indian subcontinent. Anyone know what was the great event that took place? 17-year-old leader, Muhammad ibn Qasim. Muhammad ibn Qasim was sent out by the Khalifa of the time, and he first set foot, and this was the first kind of expedition into the Indian subcontinent in the area of Multan, Sindh, Multan, Pakistan, with the 17-year-old Muhammad ibn Qasim, and he was to fight Raja Dahir. He was a leader and a quite cruel leader with the Habarid dynasty at that time, Habarid dynasty in Pakistan. And this took place, and the first kind of step of Muslims and expedition into the Indian subcontinent, Muhammad ibn Qasim, and this took place in Ramadan. But undoubtedly, one of the greatest fitan and shar in the history of Islam, whereby nearly the Muslims were obliterated from the planet. Anyone know what this is? Any historians here? The Mongols. And the Mongolian incursion into Muslim lands was horrific. We have, mashallah, youngsters here, you probably read like horrible history sometimes. I'll give you a horrible history fact. The Mongolians were brutal, animalistic in the way that they would approach and slaughter Muslims. They would have like catapults. In those days, they would have catapults. And they would throw the dead carcass of animals and human beings over the walls. Why? So that it would fall, splatter, and then it would create disease and destruction. This is how they would fight. Animalistic people under the rule of Genghis Khan, And Genghis Khan then had his sons as well, Halegu and Chalegu Khan, Halaku and Jalaku Khan. And they were animalistic. Their incursions went all the way into the Muslim rule of Spain, all the way up to Basra and Kufa, and even up to Egypt. And really many Muslims at the time, even some ulama stated, this is one of the signs of Qiyamah, that the Ummah is coming to close to destruction, close to annihilation. But there's a dua of Rasulullah whereby he made dua that no calamity should come, we should wipe the Ummah away. So the last bastion, the last defense that the Muslims had was with the Mamluk army. Mamluk army meaning an army of slaves in the area of Misr and Egypt at that time. And then this battle took place with this relatively small army, the last kind of defense of the Muslims and the Mongol army. And ironically enough, this took place at a place called Ain al-Jalut. Ain al-Jalut, the well of Goliath. And it's very appropriate. Why? Because if you know the story of Dawood and Jalut, then this is the story of the great Goliath, the Goliath power of the Mongols that annihilated, and then the power of the Mamluks, the last bastion of self-defense for the Muslims. And the Mamluks defeated the Mongols at this time, at the Battle of Ain al-Jalut. And this took place 25th of Ramadan. This was very important for the Muslims because this began the downfall of the Mongol Empire. In one section it was called the Ilkhanate Empire. And funny enough, Genghis Khan, Halaku Khan, Jalaku Khan, they were not Muslims, they had expanded. But his grandson, his name was Berke Khan. Berke Khan, he became a Muslim. And then he started fighting his other brothers for the Muslims on behalf of the Muslims. It's ajib how Allah works. That now the same people that annihilated the Muslims amongst his own lineage, amongst his own nasl, Berke Khan came, and this was the beginning of the downfall with the Battle of Ain al-Jalut. For Ramadan, does Allah want you to fight Mongols? Does Allah want you to fight the Quraysh? Does Allah want you to fight Crusaders? Allah just wants you to fight your own demons. Fight your own self. Just fight your own nufus and your own shayateen that you have with you, your qareen. Just fight against them in your Ramadan. And this will be a battle and victory for you as well. And it's nothing major. It's nothing major. Even if you're to improve 5%, just 5% every year, and do a bit of muhasabah. What is it that I need to improve on? What is it that I'm weak in? If you're to improve just 5%, do you know what happened in 20 years? Who's the mathematician here? Young boys here. 20 times 5. 20 times 5. 100%. 20 years time, you'll be a different man. You'll be a brand new person. Just 5%. What is it that you need work on? Is it your ta'alluq with Allah? Is it Fajr Salah? Then come out with strategies, right? When you leave the alarm clock in the bathroom so that you wake up, you go there, you do wudu, right? What is it? Is your recitation of Quran? Then you take a little bit of time, you put alarms on your phones. You've got alarms on phones going off all the time. Put an alarm for your hizb and how much you're going to recite in Quran. If it's your ta'alluq with people, if it's a person that winds you up, always coming there, starting something, they get the worst out of you, put fail-safes in place. You're going to have time away from that person. You're going to put people as barriers and you're going to have people around you so that you restrict yourself. Just make any improvements for 5%. 20 years time, you'll be a brand new person. And in 20 years time, you'll have a complete reformation and islah. But brothers, the main thing is, Ramadan isn't just for you. Ramadan is for Allah and His Rasul, but it's not just for you and Allah and His Rasul. You owe it for your great mujahideen of the past. These great mujahideen that fought, you owe it for them. You owe it for your ancestry. You owe it for your families. You all come from a legacy of great mujahideen that struggled for this ummah. And look what they were doing in Ramadan. Look how Ramadan began. Ramadan is ordered, never fasted for extended period of time, and Rasulullah and Sahaba being commanded now, Ramadan has begun. And then in that month, you got Battle of Badr. Ramadan starts, forget battles, headache, can't do this. And I include myself in this as well. Too much fasting is too difficult. SubhanAllah, we should take an ibrah and we should take a lesson and example from the great mujahideen because you owe it to your families. You owe it to your lineages. You owe it to your children to lead by good example. And Ramadan is a battle for ourselves. There's a quote. Our great battle, our great war is a spiritual war. And our Great Depression is our lives. Brothers, if you fight against your own desires, then inshallah Ramadan will be a month of victory for us as well. Subhanallah wa bihamdik, subhanakallah wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.